How's it going, guys? It is Blake back once again from the Avid Entries with the next part to Shadows Before Dawn. Like I said, been kind of inconsistent with this, obviously if you've been following since the beginning. But we are on tool number 15, doing tool number 15 today, and also we are well over halfway done with this book. So it'll be ending pretty soon, and when it does, I'll be starting a new book, just to let you know. It more than likely will be spiritual or metaphysical related, but yeah, something to look forward to, I guess. But anyway, tool number 15 for today is entitled Practitioner of Play. First section, the power of play. When we are children, we know how to have fun. We don't have to be coerced into play. We don't need a reward to give us incentive to play. Play is just a natural, intrinsic function of being human or being any animal, actually. Naturally, we relish the experience of our senses, and we understand that enjoyment is all the motivation that we need to create anything we wish. We also understand that enjoyment is the only way to lead a healthy life. Loving ourselves means stepping outside of rigid social controls and removing the shackles of there are more important things to do. When you play, your brain releases endorphins into your bloodstream. Endorphins are natural, feel-good chemicals. Playing also helps you heal faster and can help prevent certain medical conditions. But what exactly is play? Play is defined as an engagement in an activity for enjoyment and recreation, rather than for a serious or practical purpose. This is where we have to stop and think. In the very definition of the word play, we find the dysfunction of the society we have co-created. We have all grown up thinking that play is not synonymous with any purpose. We have been led to believe that there is something more important than happiness itself. Then we grow up and we wonder why we aren't happy, without realizing that it is because we don't take the straight path to happiness by prioritizing enjoyment. Rather, we spend our lives beating around the bush, hoping that our happiness will come as the end result of other priorities like keeping a reliable job or reaching our goals. Instead, let's consider that enjoyment has a serious practical purpose. In fact, enjoyment is really the only aspect of our lives with any ultimate value. Don't believe me? Consider happiness within the framework of good and evil. Then consider happiness within the framework of right and wrong. What you will find is that what is considered evil or wrong is only called that because it's not desired. It's not desired because it diminishes the happiness of an individual or group. Good point. Next section, what do you value? Likewise, those things that we consider good or right are called those words only because they are desired. They are desired because those actions and things increase the happiness of an individual or a group. Value, then, means nothing more than someone or something's utility in terms of facilitating happiness. Some of us value justice, while others value knowledge, beauty, love, health, achievements, peace, or money. What we miss is that the only reason we value any of them is because we think they are ultimately a means of facilitating happiness. Unhappiness is what creates all manner of atrocities, from wars and terrorism to crimes and illness. Alternately, when we become happier, we become better, healthier people. We become more financially successful, more compassionate, more philanthropic, more energetic, more creative, and even more emotionally and physically healthy. Basically, we become more of everything we want to become. When we become happier, we become more of who we truly are. Happiness is both our highest goal and our most effective means of achieving our other goals. Given this understanding, enjoyment and play seem to serve a pretty serious practical purpose, don't they? People who love themselves make the decision that the most important priority in their lives is happiness. One of the key aspects of happiness, which is often overlooked, is play, and childhood is not the only time we need to play. We need it just as much as when we are adults, but we tend to get worse and worse at it. Most of us haven't played for so long that we've forgotten how to do it. There is no right or wrong way to play. It can take the form of a game like poker. It could be playing a sport like volleyball. It can take the form of a leisure activity like taking a bath, or be some kind of totally spontaneous action like climbing a tree. No matter what it is, the only criterion that the activity or non-activity must meet is that you are doing it for one and one reason only: to enjoy yourself. Having fun isn't just about the big, fun things like skydiving. It's also about the small things, like giving yourself permission to take a leisurely walk along the beach, go on a date, or even get totally wet inside of covering up, or even get totally wet instead of covering up when it rains one day. Next section, rediscovering your playful self. When we're getting back in touch with play, it's important that you identify what you enjoy. Start by making a list of things that you do simply because you enjoy doing them. If you're having trouble coming up with ideas, it's time to try new things. Just start trying out things that you know other people enjoy doing to see if you enjoy doing them also. If you do not like something you try, you never have to do it again. If you do, you've just added to your quality of life. Every time you find something new that you enjoy doing, add it to the list of things you already know you love to do. Commit to doing at least one of these things you have on your enjoyment list every day. Once this becomes easy, you can dedicate a weekend to doing nothing but play. That is, set aside at least 2 days where you don't do anything unless you enjoy it. Pay attention to how well your body and mind start to feel when you allow them to act according to their own enjoyment. Once you're putting more stock in your own enjoyment, it's time to develop your awareness of the spontaneous play impulse. As we've discussed, the most natural state of your being is enjoyment. Because of this, your soul does not have to be coerced into playing. But in the same way that someone might have to tune in and recognize his or her emotions, you have to tune in and to recognize your play impulse. For example, when you are walking on the beach, you may have the spontaneous inspiration to run into the surf regardless of whether you are wearing pants or shorts. A sensible person who has trained themselves to ignore and defy their play impulse would choose not to heed that inspiration to play, and instead would immediately argue with the impulse by justifying why it's a bad decision. Maybe they'd think about getting their pants wet and then getting their car seat wet and then having to do laundry. Whatever the case may be, they would not allow themselves to play. They may defy their impulse so often that they no longer recognize the impulse at all. A person who has recognized the value and enjoyment, on the other hand, would recognize the impulse to play and heed that inspiration by running out into the surf immediately. This isn't an irresponsible action. It's taking full responsibility for one's own happiness. A person who runs out into the surf in this scenario would most likely value the enjoyment of that moment over the need to have dry pants or a clean car. Set a conscious intention to pay attention to your impulses. You get them all day, every day. You may be aware of your impulses to hit someone when you're angry or hug someone when you're excited. Now it's time to recognize your impulse to play. It may take a good deal of bravery, but when that impulse comes up, let yourself act on the impulse to play. Let yourself climb that tree if you suddenly get the impulse to climb it. Let yourself buy that finger paint. Let you buy the finger paints you pass in the grocery store aisle and paint with them. Give yourself permission to roll down a grassy hill in the park, even if you're wearing a skirt or a suit and tie. Sign up for scuba diving lessons if you've always wanted to try it. What you came into this life to do was play, so do it. Next section, combining work and play. Probably the most important section for most of us. This brings me to my next point. If your job doesn't fit the definition of play, you have not yet lined up with If your job doesn't fit the definition of play, you have not yet lined up with with what you are meant to be doing here on this planet. A person who loves him or herself chooses a career that is not just a job, but something that is enjoyable for them, something they can be passionate about every day. When you have lost touch with your true self, your joy and purpose are lost to you as well. To recover them, you must be willing to take a risk and place value on your own joy. When you take this kind of risk, you are committing to the willingness for your entire life to change. You are committing to your direction changing perhaps several times over the course of your life. But it's only by making this commitment that it becomes possible to truly be happy, to be truly happy. So it's time to prioritize play, not just in your personal time, but also in your choice of career. Your profession is meant to be an activity where enjoyment in and of itself is the practical purpose of engaging, and the activity and the money you make doing it is meant merely as a bonus. Alright, and that does it for tool number 15, Practitioner Play. So very interesting tool, something that I feel like would be good for a lot of people. A lot of us, especially as we get older, we kind of just go day by day in our lives, not really doing all that much to enjoy ourselves. I mean, I suppose, there's a stereotype that most people just come home from work, just watch TV, and are probably still miserable. I'm assuming there's things other people would much rather be doing, but for some reason, we just always ignore those impulses and rather just indulge into something that sort of stalemates our being. But no, that's definitely something I would say that I'm pretty good at for the most part. My play side is for the most part still very active. As you guys can see, a ton of games in the background, so that's all but one thing that I enjoy doing, in my spare time for sure. But in general, making sure that I'm continuing to do the things that I'm passionate about, that's always sort of been my main focus. And yeah, I definitely feel like if that were something that my mind was just built to just push to the side, or just try to ignore, I would definitely be a lot more miserable of a person for sure. So definitely something to keep in mind. If there's anything you have the impulse to do, something that's been calling to you, or something that you just deem as fun but other people might deem being a waste of time, just do that thing. Find time to make for that fun thing anyway, despite what other people might say. So that's kind of what I got out of this. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the reading. The next one should be very soon. I'm going to try and record it on Friday, I think. So it should be up by this weekend for sure. So stay tuned for tool number 16. That should be coming very soon. Thanks for watching. Take care, guys.